All right, so we're doing a problem here. It says what values of theta does the cosine of theta equal 1 and negative 1? So to answer something like this, to answer the question, cosine, the cosine of theta equals 1, and where that is, let's first go back and graph it. Okay, so we're going to go to the unit circle, which will make right there, make an XY axis through it, much like we did for the graph. Now, I didn't video the graph of the cosine function. I did the graph of the sine function yesterday, so we're going to kill two birds with one stone here and look at that. So this point right here, this blue dot, will be 0.10 on our unit circle. This will be 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1. So these 4 points we're going to use to generate the graph of the cosine function. And we remember that the radian measure is, of course, 0 and 2 pi. If you lap it all the way around, this would be pi over 2, this would be pi, and this would be 3 pi over 2, and so on. And as this radius kept spinning around in a circle, you would keep getting these waves in the sine function. All right, so what we're going to do here is make a table. We'll make a table over here. We'll call this theta and cosine of theta. I'll make a nice table full of things here that we'll add to this. So we're going to have 0 be our first thing, pi over 2, just like yesterday. Then we have pi, 3 pi over 2, and then 2 pi. I'll see if I can do this a little bit better. Get these things straight so it looks all good. Alright, good deal. And a slightly different color. So for the cosine, we remember again, and I won't go into why this is, but points that are x, y are of the form cosine theta, sine theta. And if you don't understand why, you need to go back and watch the one from yesterday, because I do go over that. All right, so that's the x values, basically. It's 1, 0, negative 1, 0. Again, just like the other video, I'm going to circle them 1, and I'll get rid of it. 0, negative 1, 0. Just like that. So 0, at 0, the cosine function is 1. At pi over 2, or the 90-degree position, the cosine is 0. At pi, the x position here would be negative 1. 3 pi over 2 would be back to 0. And then at 2 pi, we're back to 1. And we're going to start lapping this. Okay, we're going to start doing spins. Since I know that you know how this is going to work out, I'm going to put the 1 and the negative 1 here. I'm going to call this 0, of course. But my first point is going to be 0, 1. So let's see, we'll do it in red. Make it kind of dramatic there. There's the first point. And then at pi over 2, I'll just space this out here. Pi, 3 pi over 2. This is in radians here. Radians. This is, of course, the cosine of theta. This is theta radians there. So this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis as far as this graph goes. This would be 2 pi. And then we could keep going if we wanted, but I probably will here in a minute, but we'll see. So I'm going to actually put the points in yellow so it really sticks out. So this is the first one. So pi over 2, 0. This would be the second one. Pi negative 1 would be the third one. 3 pi over 2, 0. and 2 pi would be 1. So that would be right there. So this graph would go, if I can do this, like this. Okay, and then that cycle would keep going. Okay, great. So we've now got our graph of the cosine function. What we're going to do at this point is figure out the answer to this question, which says the cosine of theta equals 1. For what values does of that does it equal 1? And negative 1. So we can look at the graph if we want. We can look at the chart if we want, but we know that this is a cycle. This is going to keep turning here. And remember, this is what makes car stereo bass noises and all of that stuff. So all the music is basically generated off of this mathematics here behind the scenes, which is kind of cool. But the values for theta that equal 1 would be this one, okay? And it would be this one, and I think you can see what's going to happen, hopefully. So if you have 0 and 2 pi, every time this radius r here of this unit circle spins around and strikes this point right here, that's going to give you a value of 1 for the x-axis, which is the cosine of theta. So if we had to pick yet another point and we kept going down this chart, we would have 4 pi and then basically 2 pi plus that. Okay, so it's every interval of 2 pi. So for cosine of theta that equal 1, that would be 0. It would be 2 pi, 4 pi, and then dot, dot, dot. It would also be equal to the negatives. Because remember, people, this continues in the negative direction as well. This would be negative pi over 2. We haven't really talked about that part yet. Negative pi, and this would keep going. This would be negative 3 pi over 2 and negative 2 pi. And this graph, let's see if I can just eyeball this, would come down. Oh, this is going to work out. I just know it. And it would come up to about here, back up to 1 at negative 2 pi. So we could also include the things that come before this, which would be negative 2 pi. Negative 4 pi would also be a point on that. And it would be infinite in both directions. The values that to answer the second question, because I'm kind of going a little bit long here, where the cosine of theta to equal negative 1 would be all these values. I'll color code this in purple. So it'd be pi. I'll just list a few here. And the next one, what would the next one be? What do you think? 3 pi, 5 pi, and I think you get the idea now. It's going to be every interval of 2 pi. So in other words, pi plus 2 pi. Okay, and then plus 2 pi plus 2 pi, or minus 2 pi. So we could also say negative pi and negative 3 pi and so on. So all those intervals would be answers to the question, where does cosine of theta equal negative 1 and equal positive 1? And I hope you enjoyed that. Go back and watch it again if you get stuck on this, but you guys have to know how to graph that. I will talk to you later.